Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Zimbabwe is a dysfunctional, de facto one-party state. Zanu PF has corrupted the nation's various institutions, including the judiciary, the police, ZEC, the army, the CIO, the war veterans, etc., etc. These bodies have become departments of Zanu PF in all but name. And they have played their role in the last 45 years in helping the party establish the de facto one-party state that has ruled the country to this day. It is laughable that some of these institutions have on occasions tried to pretend that they are somehow independent and they are there to uphold the law, the Constitution. That is just nonsense. Here is a video clip that has been circulating in Zimbabwe's social media of somebody in the army giving a statement regarding the ongoing factional war that is taking place in the party.
Our time is 16:08 Hotel Romeo Sierra. Following our last address on 13 November 2017.
Germans have figured out a way to increase water pressure by 15 times without using any energy. This new 60-pound...
We clearly stated that Zimbabwe Defense Force will uphold the Constitution and will not abandon it to be abused by few individuals and counter-revolutionary gangsters. Zimbabwe Defense Force's main reason it was created is to protect Zimbabwe, its people, its national security, interests, and its territorial integrity. And
well, we can stop there. I think everybody knows that Zimbabwe's army was involved in the 2017 military coup. It had taken sides in that factional war. And it was a factional war. G40 versus Lacoste. And what the army or those involved in the plotting of that coup wanted to convince us is that they were doing it to uphold the law, the country's constitution. Let's make it very clear here. That was just downright a lie. You do not hold the Constitution by breaking it. The army, Zimbabwe's defense forces, the police, the CIO, the prison services, like all other state institutions in Zimbabwe, have been in the pockets of Zanu PF for a long time. In fact, they are in the Zanu PF pockets. They've all played their role in in helping Zanu PF create and maintain the de facto one-party state that has ruled the country to this day. So to try to somehow pretend that when it suits them, they are now independent and there to protect the country's constitution and the people of Zimbabwe, it's just nonsense. Here is a video clip of one army general making it very clear whose side he was on.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket, whose occupant is expected to observe the objectives of the liberation struggle. We will therefore not accept, let alone support or salute anyone with a different agenda that threatens the very existence of our sovereignty, our country, and our people. By the two crucial values, the first and most important, any report and action designed to create instability in Zimbabwe will be made by full force of law. All should be accountable for their actions. Security organizations have resolved.
At the time, the general and his colleagues were making it very clear that if the opposition was to win the elections, they will not accept that result. Yet, the truth of the matter is, it is the people of Zimbabwe, in a free, fair, and credible election, who should have the final say on who governs the country. But the general was making it very clear that that is not the case in Zimbabwe. Here is another one, another army commander, making his pledge to Zanu PF.
Zanu PF itatonga kusvika madhonge ameranya. Muchida musingadi. Ameni. Apa ndakutaura sakomanda ami. Shashandisa inonzi command voting. Yes. Yaya yemasapuku waridzi wemusangano tazvigadzira. Tinozona? Amen. Zanu PF. Vamberi na ID Mnangagwa. Pasi nemhandu. Kuma security forces saka PC mkuru wemaudondini.
In short, the army has always backed Zanu PF. And at the present moment, the army is backing one faction of Zanu PF. What I find, or what many Zimbabweans will find outrageous, is that they now want to pretend to hide behind the constitution to justify their support of one faction or the other, as if they have always stood for the rule of law. They've defended the constitution. They've cared about the people of Zimbabwe. The truth is, no, they've not. If the army is backing one faction, that is not backing the people of Zimbabwe or the constitution. Of all people, everybody knows that Mnangagwa and Zanu PF blatantly rigged the 2023 elections. This regime is illegitimate. If the army truly stood for the constitution of Zimbabwe, then they will know that this regime is illegitimate and per se should not be allowed to stay in power. And yet they clearly have turned a blind eye to it. And indeed, I think it is no secret that the army played their role in the 2023 elections as they played in all other elections in Zimbabwe to help Zanu PF stay in power. They have denied the people of Zimbabwe a meaningful say in the governance of the country. This is not just a right. Let's be very clear on that point. This is the very essence of good governance. The reason for the present political and economic turmoil is because after 45 years of gross mismanagement, rampant corruption, Zimbabwe is in economic meltdown. Millions of Zimbabweans are living in abject poverty. And many of the war veterans, and even those in the army, the police, particularly the low-ranking members, are living in abject poverty because the country's economy is in total meltdown. And this is at the heart of the country's present political unrest. And if the army truly believes that by backing one faction over the other, they are helping solve the country's problem, they are being very naive. Just as in 2017, the army backed the present Mnangagwa and his faction. And in reward for the army's backing, we know Chiwenga was made vice president, and a number of other high-ranking army officials resigned their various roles to occupy ministerial positions. That did not solve the country's economic meltdown. This is why we are where we are today. Corruption since 2017 has increased, has gone into overdrive. And today, the army is once again stepping in, taking up the constitution and pretending that they are now the ones who are fighting to uphold the constitution. I think we should at least be honest with ourselves. The army's involvement has nothing to do with the constitution, no upholding the law, no restoring the country's good governance. They're just taking faction, fighting for one faction, choosing one faction for another. And their involvement now, as in the past, is only helping to perpetuate the dictatorship. And this is something that the people of Zimbabwe must reject. We need a solution to our problem and not to be going round and round in circles. What we need in Zimbabwe is to restore the right of all the people of Zimbabwe to have a meaningful say in the governance of the country. We need to dismantle the failed de facto one-party state and restore the fundamental freedoms and rights of all Zimbabweans, including a meaningful say in the governance of the country. The army should revert to its truly institutional position of defending the country's institutions, the rule of law, its borders, and guaranteeing the security by stopping its involvement in the political arena and dictating who is to rule in Zimbabwe. The current struggle in Zimbabwe is to end the dictatorship and not to replace one dictator with another. And if the army should decide that it is going to be involved and help one dictator to prevail over the other, they should do so, but stop pretending that they are doing the nation a favor or that they are upholding the nation's constitution. They are not. The army has been used by Zanu PF to establish and maintain the one-party state. And now some of the people in the army are finding themselves in a situation where they've got to take sides. They should do so, but stop pretending they are still fighting on the side of the people. the fight to end the Zanu PF dictatorship is what we are fighting for. The ordinary Zimbabweans are fighting for. And those who are fighting to perpetuate it should not pretend they're fighting on the side of the people. They are not. Thank you very much. Those of you who were able to join this afternoon. Have a good day.